Hi everyone, welcome to this I'll call it brief webinar. We're going to be running a quick check exercise. Otherwise, you're welcome. I'm called Andrew. Coach Andy is the brand. For long, there's been a lot of talk about AI for HR. I'll just give a brief description of who I am, what I do. I am an HR practitioner, like everybody hopefully joining. An organizational psychologist by training, certified change management practitioner, and certified transformative coach, and now a very crazy AI enthusiast with a bias towards AI for human resource management. I'm going to be on this webinar with Ethan. Ethan is working with me on this AI for HR. He is specializing in the development of AI automations using a different platform from what we'll be learning from about today, and it's called NA10, but we'll get to that shortly. My job here is to just make you get to know what it takes to get into the AI bandwagon or bus, to figure out what does it take for me as an HR practitioner to get started with AI for HR. It's very easy. First of all, I should tell us it is very easy. And then I should also tell us that you can start applying this in your work today. You don't even have to wait till tomorrow. You don't have to wait till the next day. You can start applying this today and make your life a lot easier. So, quick introduction: Andrew Yoruba, organizational psychologist, management consultant, working with, in this case, it is Utah Solutions Limited and Phoenix Fortunes. Phoenix Fortunes is the company we shall be using for AI for HR automations. And yes, I bring to you over 25 years of practice in HR, and I'm going to add the practice in AI. So you have both 25 years of practice in HR at across the Americas, Africa, Europe, and Asia, and also now picking up on the practice of AI in HR and building AI for HR solutions from a purely HR perspective. So I know the ins and outs of HR, and I'm bridging with the ins and outs of AI in a manner that does not make life complicated for the HR practitioner who doesn't know how to do programming, who doesn't know how to do coding. We're going to build our first HR policy chatbot in under 60 minutes. Actually, in reality, it takes 10 minutes to build a chatbot, but the rest of the time will be walking us through a step-by-step process of building this chatbot. It literally takes 10 minutes. So imagine if you were to solve your HR problem today and say, I just want to stop people asking me questions about this HR policy. Guess what? With AI, in 10 minutes, with your IT person, you can get this deployed. In 20 minutes, 10, 20. But let's give it 60 minutes for purposes of learning. What are we going to be going through today? We're going to be talking about what AI in HR is, a quick brief overview. We're also going to talk about no-code AI automation systems, because we are not programmers, we are HR practitioners. We don't want to start worrying about programming. We want to just start worrying about how do we get this working in my day-to-day HR work. And then I'll just describe briefly the platforms we use. And for this webinar, we shall be talking about Vectorshift. But Ethan and in the near future, we'll be sharing with you a video. If your preference is another AI automation solution, we shall share with you NA10. We shall also share with you another one with make.com. But for now, we shall look at these 1, 2, 3 using Vectorshift. So let's deep dive very quickly to our understanding of what is AI in HR. AI in HR has transitioned from initially in the 1980s to the 2000s, we used to have automation, where we have rules-based HR information systems, streamlined payroll, leave, and compliance workflows. That was between the 80s and the 2000s. If so-and-so has attended X numbers of hours, pay them X amount of money. That was an automation that you could run between the 80s and the 2000s. Between 2000s and 2010, people started talking about predictive analytics. Machine learning models started surfacing. They started providing insights on attrition, talent fit, and workforce planning. You could predict how many people were likely to lose. You could easily, over time, by looking at the attrition rates, you could see how people match with jobs. This started around the 2010s. Now, many of us HR practitioners are going for certifications in HR analytics, but just get to know that this is something that was cooking in the 2010s already. Then come 2020, we've started having conversational and generative AI, where we have chatbots, resume optimizations, policy co-pilots, and they deliver real-time HR support. I'm starting with us, where 5 years back, technically speaking, the chatbots we are talking about right now started around 2020. We are in 2025. We need to catch up. But hopefully throughout this year, we shall go through chatbots, we shall go through resume optimizers, we shall go through policy copilots, we shall go through many other HR-related solutions as time goes, if you keep up with us in this engagement. And then in the future, which is emerging, we are talking about responsible augmentation, explainable, ethical AI, equipping HR leaders to make fair and data-driven decisions at scale. We shall be entering the cutting edge of AI for HR. I'm hoping that towards the end of this, you'll agree to receiving at least once a week updates on what's happening in the AI for HR market, so that you're not left behind. So that's a summary of what is happening in AI and AI for HR. And what was the impact? I've just talked about this. In the 1950s, we had expert systems, early HRIS in the 80s. They were doing payroll processing, time and attendance, and regulatory reporting. They improved efficiency gains and reduced on clerical errors. We started predictive analytics from 2010 to 2015, where we have big data, cloud human capital management systems, and we're scoring attrition risks. We're looking at talent pipelines, training return on investment prediction, and 24/7 employee help desks. And ROI predictions. We have data-backed strategic planning now. We are now in the era of conversational and generative AI. Between 2020, we had GPT-3. 2023, we had GPT-4 and co-pilots. We can screen and draft candidates. We can draft policies. We can create personalized learning pathways. We can do scalable personalized HR services with conversational and generative AI. For the subsequent webinars, we'll be discovering this. We now, 2024 onwards, we are talking about how safe is AI? Are we regulating it? Is it biased? Is it auditable? Now we're going through performance reviews that are explainable, co-creative job design tools to build trust, transparency, and better employee experience. All this is happening, I hope, while we are not sleeping. Now, what systems do we have that are for no-code AI automation? We'll talk about 3. Ethan is with us on the link. He's a specialist in NA10. If you want to visit the website, it's na10.io. There's another one, which is make.com, which used to be called Integromat. These are no code, which means an HR practitioner can just click, drag, drop, type in your AI instructions, and get your AI automation application running. And the one we're going to look at today is called Vectorshift. How do these 3 look? They all launch fast, and they can be set up in under 10 minutes. and you can sign in with Google. It has, Make has a huge template library. You can drag and drop. It has built-in LLMs, OpenAI, and then you can summarize things. You have HR templates for management. You can do instant CV summaries for recruitment. You can auto-notify line managers when training is overdue. You can do sentiment analysis. There's N8N Cloud. It also does almost the same. It also has very many integrations and it launches fast. And then we have Vectorshift.ai, which is also no code, and it also allows us to create workflows, automations, chatbots, and agents. And so we'll try this today with an HR policy chatbot. And like we said, by the end of this webinar, you should be able to, or work out, let me use even the word very ambitiously, work out with your HR policy chatbot. Okay, now we are going into practice, because what we promise is what we want to deliver. We want to stop talking about AI and start doing AI for HR. We are going to talk through the basics of building a chatbot, and then I'll introduce you to Vectorshift.ai. I hope you have, like me, 2 monitors. If not, you have a device that will allow you to listen in while you're trying out your hands on. I'm hoping we can save a video of this and upload it to YouTube that will be accessible to us all. Please know that we are doing this with an HR practitioner who is doing AI. It's not a techie. It's not a programmer. I'm an HR practitioner, 25 years practicing HR. So if I can do it, you can do it. Keep it at the back of your mind. We'll go through the introduction to Vectorshift, and we shall build our chatbot. And please keep your eye on the watch. We have to make sure we do this before the close of this webinar. Okay, what are we going into? What are the basics of a chatbot? Let's think about a chatbot as a workflow. These are the building blocks of making a chatbot. You need to get your notes ready, or put your questions in the question where questions are provided for in the webinar. When you're building a chatbot, you will need an input. The chatbot will require where the employee will be able to ask their questions. That is a non-negotiable when you're building a chatbot. When you're building a chatbot, you will need what you're going to be talking about. And that's what we are talking about in this case, the HR policy. The HR policy will be the knowledge base that we feed into our chatbot. The employee will be asking questions about the HR policy, and the chatbot will be looking at this knowledge base and answering those questions. As simple as that. And what will we need again? We'll need a large language model or an AI that processes the employee's questions and checks in the HR policies and answers the questions, as well as keeps track of the conversation that they are having with the employee. So you have your input, you have your HR policy. The input means a place where the person will ask questions. It's like the input box or text box where you can capture information when you're talking on WhatsApp. In future stages, we'll allow you or teach you how to make this input both either text or audio, such that if somebody has little time to type, they can do an audio and just ask the question. So Ethan will run a demo for us in the near future on LLM, on N8N, and maybe one of our other colleagues, Grace, will run for us the same demo on Make. So whichever platform you use, you will have the tools you need to create your chatbot. Today is just introductory, and it's going to be very simple. What else do we need? We will need a response or an output. So our HR policy chatbot will just have 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 components, and I'm going to reflect it diagrammatically. I hope this is not French. It is pure HR. What is the input? The question that the employee will ask. What is the knowledge base? The HR policy that the employee is asking questions about. The LLM is the AI, like OpenAI, like Anthropic, like Google Gemini, like Meta, like Grok for Twitter or X, and then the output is still the response that comes when the LLM has processed the question and looked through the knowledge base. That is the output. That is the response that we get. I'm just emphasizing that. Let's see the flow. I guess many of us are familiar with the workflow. Employee asks, how is recruitment handled in this organization? The question is thrown to the knowledge base, and the knowledge base has the HR policy. The knowledge base reflects on this question, and the AI, the answers are in the knowledge base. The AI also listens to the question that the employee is asking, and it reads the knowledge base and finds the most probable answer that will be give us feedback to this employee, and it outputs that response to the employee query. You see how easy it is? That is very, very easy for us to do. There's a saying, and this is by ChatGPT. Every great HR policy was once a blank page. Let AI be the pen that turns your question into instant people-first answers. Okay, that's a quote I asked ChatGPT to generate. When I asked it the source, it said, "You told me to be creative. Here I am. Every HR policy was once a blank page." You get that? So every HR consultation was once an email, was once a knock at your door. Every HR policy consultation was a phone call, was a WhatsApp message. But let AI now turn those questions into instant people-first answers as far as HR policy is concerned. I hope that works for us. We're going to go into Vectorshift.ai. Please, if you have a PC on you and you can split your window into two, we are going into the practice very shortly. What is Vectorshift.ai? Vectorshift is a no-code AI automation platform. It allows you to drag and drop, click and type, and create a workflow that you can use to automate your HR work. Ethan, in one of the upcoming webinars, we'll talk about NA10, and Grace, who is part of our team, will also be talking about Make.ai. And again, we are giving you hands-on for an HR person who has no programming experience, but can demonstrate the use of this and apply it in your day-to-day work. Okay, so go to www.vectorshift.ai. You'll find a window or a screen like this. We are going to get started building our chatbot. As you go to www.vectorshift.ai, you will notice you can be noticing that somebody will say, how about pricing? How much am I supposed to pay? There is a free account, and that's what we are going to be using. Start with a free account. You just click login. If I go back to the previous slide, you just say click get started, and you don't need to pay anything right now. You can build your first chatbot for free. And if you then learn and discover that I can work with this, when we teach you the next time, I don't know what we want to learn about next time, designing a training program, not just by typing and asking ChatGPT. That's different. Now we are talking about HR services that we can deliver to teams, to the people that we work with, that we can deliver to, we can use to make our work easier without typing in ChatGPT and copying and pasting, but solutions that helps HRs provide more robust services. So Vectorshift.ai provides a free starter account, which will allow us to build one chatbot and one workflow. And all we want is one workflow. When you wake up and decide to build 2, 3, 4 other workflows, if we come back for subsequent classes or exercises or webinars, you just remove or delete that workflow and that chatbot, and we build another one. If you don't want to start paying any money for this service. For now, I wouldn't advise you to pay any money until you've learned at least 5 different applications and use cases. So whenever we come back, if you've created an account on Vectorshift, you will remove the previous pipeline you used for learning and create another pipeline. We'll use a knowledge base, and we can store 100 vectors, and we can upload and integrate with at least one integration. So I hope you've gotten to this page where you can create your account. If you have a Gmail account, just continue with Google and create a Vectorshift account. We're going into practice now, and it is 20 minutes down the road. Prerequisites for HR policy chatbot. What do we need? We need a soft copy of your HR policy. Okay. You need your free account on Vectorshift.ai. I believe you all have that. And you just need about 20 minutes online. So that's as easy as it is for an HR practitioner. If anyone has seen any programming right now, put up your hand and say, I think this is too complicated for me. We shall find a way of helping you and making your life easy. Ethan is online, co-facilitating with me as we speak. Okay, so let's get building. I'm going to pull down my screen, this particular presentation, and take us to Vectorshift. So here we are with Vectorshift. When we say get started, I hope you signed in. When you sign in, it takes you to the home page. I should show you the home page. This is what you will see once you have signed up to Vectorshift. It will have a dashboard which tells you welcome to Vectorshift. It will show you whether you can start with an existing template, a chat assistant, a workflow automation or integration, and then there are helpful resources. If you are like me who is opening this for you guys on a new account, you will have to, you will see an opportunity to upgrade. And I have a paid account, but I've just opened a free account for us to demonstrate such that we are all starting from scratch. So what do we do? This dashboard has a set of menus. At the first one we've looked at is home. The next one is pipelines. In Vectorshift, a pipeline is a workflow. If you remember when we just went back to our presentation, the equivalent of a pipeline is this in Vectorshift. So we have this. This in Vectorshift is called a pipeline. Those of you who have been in process reengineering or have done workflows, you know this is a flow chart or a workflow. So in Vectorshift, a workflow like this is called a pipeline. So to build a workflow like this in Vectorshift, we'll be saying we are building a pipeline. I hope that is clear. So we have pipelines, and you can create a new pipeline. I'm going to delete this pipeline so that we start from scratch. Delete. So you will see a page like this that says create a pipeline. I'm not going to take us through the other elements of the menu for now because we have exactly our 1 hour to build this pipeline, to build a chatbot. So you click on create a new pipeline. You can create from scratch or you can use a chatbot template. I want us to create from scratch because then you will learn. Okay, so I'm told I had disconnected. So I was talking about, we have menu items. On these menu items, there are many things we could work with. There are things we call nodes. There are things we call pipelines, like I talked about. But in the pipeline window, we have what we call nodes, okay? A node is what you use to capture the action you want to take in your pipeline. We said in our case, we need an input. Now in Vectorshift, we just drag and drop. I put an input here, and that will be the node I create. And this node, I shall call it employee question. Okay, you can modify that and call it employee question. We said we would also need, when we've gotten an input, we shall need that input to go into and query a knowledge base, isn't it? So you go to the menu item called knowledge and base, which is right here, and you select search, or you can select knowledge, but we select search, okay? And then we say it's going to do a search of a knowledge base that we will have to upload, okay? We can also pick KB actions. We read a knowledge base. I will take a knowledge base reader. You could use any of those nodes, but I want to pick up what is helpful for us. So in Vectorshift, we have a knowledge base reader. The knowledge base we talked about is the HR policy. So we have to create a knowledge base. To create a knowledge base, you click create new knowledge base, and we shall call this HR policy. I was about to say knowledge KB, but let me say knowledge base. Okay. Knowledge base. Okay. You could click advanced settings and choose how big the chunks are. You don't need to do that for now. I'll leave the advanced settings to 400 chunk size. Then I say create. When you're creating a knowledge base, it will ask you, what do I put in this knowledge base? In the knowledge base, you can then choose to add the document that you want to upload. In my case, I have an HR policy. I can drag and drop, and then I browse my files. I go into my folder and look for the HR policy that I want to use. I'll use this one, a generic organizational HR policy. So it will upload that as your knowledge base, and I'll select this, and then I say confirm. Okay, so it creates and saves my HR policy, and then I go back to my policy chatbot. As it uploads, I now have my HR policy knowledge base. So to link this, I can simply draw a line from here, an arrow to this. So the employee question shall go to the knowledge base, okay? When the knowledge base question goes to the knowledge base, the employee question goes to the knowledge base, we shall now look for an LLM. In Vectorshift, we have OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere, Amazon, Google LLMs, Azure, Perplexity, and X. And then you can use DeepSeek from your open source or a custom LLM, a large language model, or your AI, for lack of a better word. Now, what do we want this AI to do? This knowledge base, we can rename it as HR policy KB for knowledge base. So HR policy knowledge base. So we shall get a message from the user. The question shall come to the knowledge base. It shall examine this knowledge base, query this knowledge base, this question, and the LLM shall be our HR policy LLM. Okay. Now, as we do with ChatGPT, we must give it instructions, tell it what to do for us. And we are simply saying, the instruction we shall say is answer employee question based on HR policy. Okay. And then we say do use strictly the HR policy. Okay. If you want, you can expand this such that it is in a pop-out and you can see what you're asking it to do. And these are the instructions we've given it. We want the LLM to look at the question and look at the HR policy and answer the question. Now, to add, for it to know which is the question, we say employee question is this. We shall add a variable, and the variable is employee question. So this is it draws you a link. It will look at this employee question to answer. And then we also have the HR policy that we said answer the employee question according to the HR policy. To connect these two, you can type curly brackets. It will bring you a drop-down list, and you choose the knowledge base, and you say, give us the chunks that we need to answer. Now, what we need to learn about LLMs, if you do not know, is most of these LLMs have settings that allow it to be either very creative or to be restrictive with respect to what it should give you as far as information is concerned. So we always say, specify, this is what we call temperature and top P. Just to help us understand what this is, I'll do a quick Google search. What is temperature and top P in OpenAI LLM models? Okay. What is temperature? It will tell us temperature controls the randomness of the output, where if you have higher values, it means you let the LLM be more creative. If you have lower values, you need predictable outputs. As far as we are concerned, HR, we need more predictable outputs from the HR policy. We don't want it to be random. So we shall reduce the temperature to 0.01. Okay. What about top P? Top P is nuclear sampling, limits the selection of the next token to a subset of the most probable options. It's making your life a bit complicated, but we shall simply say, give us the most probable response to the question. So we also reduce the top P to the least possible, such that we get the most probable response. Most people will leave that, and then the LLM will become creative and start giving you more than you're asking for. Remember the workflow we talked about earlier? We said we need an input, we need a knowledge base, which was the HR policy. We need the LLM to go through this. The other thing we said we would need was an output. The output shall be the response, HR policy response. I'm going to increase the size of this so that we see it. So the output here will be called HR policy response. It shall be a text output, and this output shall come from the LLM. You just click and drag and drop, and there we have our chatbot workflow complete. But there's one thing we haven't included, and that is, if we tell the LLM, you must remember what Andy said, we have to go into the chat and say, please keep in mind the ChatBot memory and modify the instructions, and we shall say to bear in mind chat memory. Bear in mind chat memory. Why? Because you may ask a question that you've already asked, and it repeats an answer if it doesn't remember the question that the employee asked. So we have to add another instruction here in the prompt. What is chat memory? Chat memory is what we have picked from here. And like I said, if you're to insert to connect the nodes, you create double curly brackets, open them, it will bring you a drop-down list, and then you select the item, which is the chat memory. Okay, so our chatbot is done. Our HR policy chatbot is done. We have our input. I'll minimize the screens, and then I'll increase the sizes. We have our input. It read the HR policy and sent the question and the HR policy to the AI, and it retained memory, and it gives us a response. This is what it does. So your chatbot is ready for deployment. Okay, we are ready to deploy. So what do we do in Vectorshift? We say deploy changes, and it can be a major change, it can be a minor change, it can be a patch. whichever way you want to do it, it will tell you successfully deployed. Your changes have been successfully deployed. Now, how do I export this? I say, how do I implement this chatbot? I can export it as a chatbot, as a form, where somebody just fills and answers. But let's test this bot. Let's run this chatbot and see. To run a chatbot, you go to your top right and there's an arrow where there is run. Normally it is highlighted green in Vectorshift. So I'll choose the chatbot and then I type the question and ask this chatbot. I hope the knowledge base was loaded because we left it loading, but it's there as far as we can see. So we will say, how do we recruit staff? Let's see. It will go through the knowledge base, read. According to the information, there is no specific HR policy regarding staff recruitment. Please refer to the HR policy. So it means in our document here, the knowledge base has not captured all the information, and the status is we have exceeded our usage limit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe the policy is very big. Let's just open this and see what the document is saying. Okay, I'm going to take this out, delete this document, and look at what I have as my files, and then I just say I go to my knowledge base, I go to my HR policy knowledge base, and then I say add document, choose upload files, and then I choose this policy, and then I confirm. If it tells me I've exceeded my vector threshold, okay. So for the free usage, there are restrictions. The document I have, the HR policy document I have, is very bulky. If I open it for you, you will see why it is saying I've exceeded my document usage, because it is very heavy. Let's see. It has over 15, 17, 18, 20 sections with details, policy frameworks, and the rest. This is the knowledge base we wanted to use. So I'll go into a more shortened version or open this whole pipeline in another framework that will allow us to see the policy we want to update. Okay, so I'm going to take this out and pick a fully working version, Vectorshift.ai, get it up and running very quickly like we did earlier. And then I say new pipeline, and then I say create pipeline, go through the entire process again. This was our input. This is the employee question. I go into the LLM. We asked it to answer user question based on context. Let's see where that is. I'll just copy and paste what we had written earlier, and we called this HR policy LLM. And then we had our knowledge base reader, which is here. So knowledge base, we created our knowledge base reader, and this knowledge base, we called it HR policy KB. And we linked it to the search query, which was the employee question. We created a new knowledge base and we called it HR policy demo. I'll just give it a different name, May 2025. And then I said create, and that was it. And then I choose which file to upload, browse my file, and then I look for the file which was here, downloads, AI for HR, organizational HR policy. It is here, I upload it. And then I think I should close it as well. It has uploaded. And then I go back to the pipeline, which we had named my first HR policy chatbot. Okay, then we linked this and we said we also needed chat memory. So we went to the chat menu item, picked the node called chat memory, and we said we'll just call it chat memory since it's already named chat memory. So chat memory is there, and we said the first thing would be employee question. That would be what we are asking, and we draw a line from the input to the employee question. We open double curly brackets and we read the text that is coming from the employee question node. And then we go and ask what was the HR policy that it will query. And again, we open the curly brackets. It will pick information from the knowledge base reader, which are the chunks. And then we talked about chat memory. And the chat memory is there. And again, open curly brackets. It will give us what is coming from the chat memory. And then we said we go back to our start menu item and give it the output. And there we have our output as the LLM response. And we said we deploy these changes. Once it says successfully deployed, then we can run it. This is where we were. We run it as a chatbot and we say, what does the HR policy say about recruitment? I hope it will come out this time. I hope there was something on recruitment in the HR policy. If there isn't, well, it says the policy doesn't have anything on recruitment. How do I take leave? Let's see whether it still goes through. There is no content available. So there is an error somewhere in our knowledge base. It's not reading the organizational policy. Okay. Why is this error? Because it hasn't transformed the information into vectors that are readable. It takes some time to convert the information into vectors. I think that's why it is taking a bit of time. What I could do is delete this document and then use what is already vectorized in the okay. Let's see if this one has vectors in it. What is the status? It is looking at the synchronization and seeing if we have these vectors already loaded. Okay, so same story. It is still having to update the information. Let us do a very simple one. Let me go here and say HR policy and pick a URL that already has HR policies. Okay. Human resource policy and procedure guideline. I want to find one that is not a PDF. Okay. Latest documents, this will take us back. So there are two options. If your HR policy is going to take us a bit of time to upload, which is happening here, uploading vectors, it takes a bit to synchronize. Then we have to wait, or else we can give the knowledge base a URL like we saw here, we have the option of our knowledge base being the policy itself. We have the option of the knowledge base being a URL. We have the option of, let's go here, where is edit knowledge base? We have the option of adding a URL or scraping a URL, okay, or adding an integration. So if our HR policy is already on our website, I would also say scrape a URL and enter the URL, and that's what I was looking for any HR policy document that is in HTML format. HR policy, HTML. Okay. Public service information portal. I don't see this one is, we can grab one of these various HR policies, manual template, use our template to create HR policies and procedures with forms, public service, HR policies and planning. Most of these will come as PDF documents. Okay, so here it is. We can scrape this and see whether it will give us what we're looking for. And we can say we scrape once in a month and we add that document and see whether it will do. So same story. It takes a bit of time to scrape and synchronize, and then we subsequently get the information up and running. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the policy chatbot. When we're running and it queries the HR policy, it will allow us to get these outputs. It will tell you when it becomes available. So we'll wait until it becomes available and continue to restrict our responses as far as temperature and top P are concerned. We shall come back to it once the vector database has been synchronized. What happens in the background is it breaks down the entire document into chunks that it can quickly reference when the time comes for it to reference. So when we upload a document, we have to give it time to break down the document into chunks. We shall still finish. Fortunately, the workflow is done. Now, when we come to export, we shall say deploy the pipeline. We have deployed it, and then we go to export and we say export it as a chatbot. We shall call it my first HR policy chatbot, and then we shall say auto deploy. Okay, chatbot X, and then we shall create the chatbot. The chatbot, you can give it a logo and a header. To give it a logo and a header, I can pick a URL. If my URL is the company we work with, I'll use Coach Ande, coachande.com, and then I say use this URL as a header. Copy image address, and I paste it there. It should change. Yes. And then the chatbot shall be called HR policy chatbot. Then I'll say welcome display. Again, I'll put my company URL here instead. We could upload a picture. And then I say my HR policy assistant. Okay. And then down here, if you have a paid version, the bottom bar you can change and remove powered by Vectorshift. And you can simply add your company text or your URL, okay? And the picture as well. And then we say, okay, then I say bottom bar text, copyright. And then my chatbot is ready for deployment. So I simply say deploy changes, okay? Then I have my chatbot ready. Now, when the chatbot is ready like that, I can simply click the word export, and then I can connect it to Twilio for WhatsApp, such that I have my WhatsApp number connected. I can connect it as an iframe, or I can connect it as a link, export it as a link. So if I copied this link and then posted it anywhere on a website, it should be able to bring me the chatbot. Okay, so you say, go to this link and consult our HR policy. The chatbot will be there, and it will be able to say, how can I assist you today? You get that? As soon as the pipeline is sorted, the knowledge base is loaded, we should be able to get the information we are looking for. Okay, so it hasn't yet created vectors, but the status is still updating. And this is the only challenge we're going to have with our documents because of the document sizes. And but otherwise, technically, we are finished with the chatbot, just waiting for it to synchronize and build vectors out of the documents that we've uploaded. I'm going to pause here and ask if there are any questions for now. Somebody's saying, I'm excited and thinking of designing a chatbot for labor laws and therefore be guided in real time without having to flip pages every time a safe decision has to be made. This is possible. The schema is the same. You simply upload the data instead of the knowledge base on an HR policy. You upload data on the various labor laws, and then you can ask, what does the law say about this? So what we've done, Ethan and I, is we asked a friend of ours in the legal section to give us a list of all the laws available that have an impact on employment and an employee, which they did. This is Caroline saying. And when they gave us that, we created a database which you can now query literally, but that already is done, if I'm not mistaken. I saw something like that by law school in Uganda, for example, but you can do it for any country. And you'll have your chatbot ready for deployment. So as I do this tweak, I'm going to copy this link that we had for this HR policy chatbot and paste it in the chat, in the Q&A part, and then share it with you guys, and we see whether you can test it on your side. Somebody asked, when creating a chatbot, the document is normal text. The chatbot often answers correctly. If the input data is in table form, the chatbot often answers incorrectly. Two things happen. When you're building a chatbot, there are formats of data that LLMs read. If you do not configure the LLM to read your knowledge, like we said, our input is, it outputs chunks, okay? By looking at chunks that are semantically similar to be retrieved. You get that? So in this case, it looks at text as text. If you want to choose a model that specifies what you're looking for, you have to choose a model that can read tables as well, such that you input that. But also you have inputs options that give you text, file, list of files, image, knowledge base, timestamp, etc. So if you input different kinds of information, the model will read different kinds. But LLMs generally, up to the point of the recent ones that can do image processing, their API calls are to specific models that either use text or what do you call this? So like in this case where we have knowledge base, it gave us an option what kind of information it reads. So you could output text or you could output images depending on the model you have chosen. If it is OpenAI, etc. If we say we are looking for a multimodal, then you can use audio and image, and then it will allow you to use either audio or image. But yes, LLMs largely pick chunk knowledge in text chunks rather than table chunks. What we advise people is, if you tell it to read a table, give it a file that is tabulated rather than a Word document that has tables. Give it an Excel file and tell it reference the cell or the columns. The time is up now. I would like to ask if there are any other questions. Feel free to answer. Otherwise, we would like to stop here for today, and feel free to test the chatbot as you move forward. I will update the knowledge base if there are any changes. If there are no changes, you let us know. Thank you very much and have a good day. I want to stop there because the hour is done and the chatbot is up. Over. Thank you very much. Bye for now.